I never imagined I'd end up in a viral security camera video, but life has a way of surprising you. My name is Ethan Brooks, and I've lived in Willow Creek for 5 years. It's a decent neighborhood, neat lawns, matching mailboxes, and an HOA led by the most unbearable woman I've ever met, Margaret Hensley. Margaret took her role as HOA president way too seriously. She was the type to carry a ruler in her bag to measure if your grass was a quarter-inch too long. Once, she left a notice on my door because my trash can sat at the curb for 47 minutes after pickup. Yes, she timed it, complete with photos and timestamps. I tried to stay off her radar, but when my sister and her 3 kids visited for the weekend, Margaret's attention zeroed in on my house like a laser. The trouble started Saturday morning when my niece and nephews were playing in my fenced backyard. The doorbell rang, and there stood Margaret, clipboard in hand, pearl necklace perfectly aligned on her crisp blouse. "Good morning, Ethan," she said with a smile that never touched her eyes. "I'm here to remind you of the noise ordinance in Section 4, Paragraph 7 of our community guidelines. It prohibits excessive noise, including children's play, before 9 a.m. on weekends." I glanced at my watch. It was 9:15. "Margaret, they've been out there since 8:45, she said, tapping her fancy watch. "First warning. 3 warnings mean a fine." She spun around, her blonde bob swishing with precision, and left. I rolled my eyes. Typical Margaret. But that was just the warm-up. That afternoon, my niece and nephews, ages 7, 9, and 11, asked to play in the front yard. It was a perfect 75-degree day with a light breeze, so I sat on the porch with a book, keeping an eye on them while my sister napped. About 20 minutes into their game of tag, I spotted Margaret power-walking toward my house. She'd swapped her blouse for pricey athleisure, but the clipboard was still glued to her hand. "Ethan," she called before reaching my lawn, "those kids are running across multiple properties. That's trespassing per bylaw 12. I looked up from my book. "They're on my lawn, Margaret. I'm watching them." She pointed dramatically to where my nephew Liam had 1 foot on the strip of grass between the sidewalk and street, city property we homeowners maintain. "That's common area, not yours," she said smugly, like she'd memorized every property line in Willow Creek. "And they're too loud. I can hear them from my office 3 houses down." I sighed. Kids playing on a Saturday isn't excessive noise. It's normal. But fine. I called out, "Kids, stay on the grass and use your inside-outside voices." They nodded, toning down their happy shouts to quieter chatter. Margaret stood there, eyes narrowed, waiting for another slip-up. When none came, she scribbled something on her clipboard. "Second warning," she said, her voice dripping with self-righteous authority. "1 more, and it's a $100 fine." As she walked off, Liam whispered, "That lady's mean." I couldn't argue, but told him to be polite. Margaret's shoulders stiffened, but she kept going. I thought that was the end of it. The kids played for another hour, careful to stay on my lawn. My sister joined me on the porch, and we chatted while watching them. It was a perfect Saturday, until it wasn't. The tag game got lively, with my niece Sophie dodging her brother Noah, who was it. As Sophie darted around the oak tree in my yard, she accidentally stepped on the corner of Margaret's lawn for maybe 2 seconds. What happened next still feels like a bad dream. Margaret burst out her front door like she'd been lying in wait. She'd changed again, now in what I can only call tactical casual khaki pants with too many pockets and a polo so starched it could stand alone. "Stop right there," she yelled, her voice echoing down the street, drawing neighbors to their windows. "This is your final warning. You're trespassing on private property." The kids froze. My sister and I stood, alarmed by the wild look in Margaret's eyes. I walked toward them, trying to calm things down. "Margaret, they're kids. Sophie stepped on your lawn for a second. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" Margaret's voice hit a new pitch. "This is what's wrong with society, no respect for rules or property. I've documented 3 violations today." She waved her clipboard like it held the key to the universe. My sister, ever diplomatic, said, "We're sorry about the lawn. It won't happen again." But Margaret wasn't listening. She reached into a pocket and pulled out a canister of pepper spray. My heart stopped. "I'm making a citizen's arrest for trespassing and disturbing the peace," she declared, gripping the spray like she'd been dying to use it. I stepped between her and my family. "Margaret, put that away. You're scaring the kids." "I know my rights," she shouted. "As HOA president, I enforce community guidelines." "HOA presidents can't arrest people or pepper spray them," I said firmly, signaling my sister to get the kids inside. Margaret saw them moving and lost it. "Don't walk away when I'm talking." She lunged around me, pepper spray raised. What happened next was captured perfectly by my doorbell camera and the security camera I'd installed after Margaret once removed a package from my porch for being unsightly. She tried to dodge me, aiming the spray at my family. I blocked her again, and she fired. Most of it missed, but some blew back into her face. She screamed, more furious than hurt, and in her flailing, sprayed my nephew Noah, who'd turned to look. His cry of pain is seared into my memory. My sister rushed to him as I grabbed Margaret's wrist, forcing the canister down. "Let go. This is assault," she shrieked, her mascara running as her eyes watered. "No, Margaret, you just assaulted a child," I said, holding firm. Neighbors were out now, phones recording. Someone called 911 and sirens approached. The police arrived to a clear scene, witnesses, footage, and a 9-year-old with chemical burns around his eyes. They arrested Margaret on the spot, reading her rights as she insisted she was enforcing HOA rules. "This is outrageous." "I was protecting property values," she yelled as they put her in the squad car. "I'm the president of Willow Creek's HOA." The officer was unmoved. "Ma'am, you pepper sprayed a kid for playing tag. Your title doesn't cover that." That evening, after Noah was treated at the ER, thankfully with no lasting damage, we gave our statements. The footage was downloaded as evidence. Margaret was charged with assault with a chemical agent, battery on a minor, and reckless endangerment. The story spread through Willow Creek like wildfire. By Monday, an emergency HOA meeting was called. I showed the footage, and the room gasped when Margaret sprayed Noah. The board voted unanimously to remove her as president immediately. At her arraignment, Margaret looked deflated, her lawyer grim. The judge denied their request to reduce charges. "Ms. Hensley, assaulting a child with a chemical agent shows a severe lack of judgment," he said sternly. Bail was set at $50,000. Margaret's face cycled through shock, anger, and back to shock. 2 months later, she pleaded guilty to lesser charges to avoid a trial. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $15,000 in restitution to my family for medical bills and Noah's trauma counseling. As the bailiff led her away, Margaret turned to me in the courtroom. The smug entitlement that defined her was gone, replaced by stunned disbelief. "It was just pepper spray," she whispered. "I was enforcing the rules." The courtroom door shut, and that was the last I saw of Margaret Hensley, former HOA president, now inmate number 392104. Willow Creek has been quieter since, with a new HOA president who actually likes kids. My family's healing, and Noah's back to playing tag on my lawn only. For the first time in years, our neighborhood feels like a community again.